Welcome back to this third lesson in our open house event series. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the third P of the 4 Ps, which is present. So remember, our 4 Ps are prepare, promote, present, and pursue. So let's go ahead and talk about present. Present is showtime. Present is the day and the time in which you have scheduled your open house. It's time for you to shine and to show up and present the home and yourself in the best light so that you can convert those open house attendees into potential clients. So as you're getting ready to invite guests into your open house, the first thing we can advise you to do is to give yourself plenty of time. If you haven't set up your signs overnight, you're going to need to give yourself time to get those signs out. There's a chance that someone may stop you and ask you what you're doing, ask you about the open house. If you're placing signs in a yard, you may want to go up to that person's home and let them know what you're doing, ask for permission to place a sign in their yard. Some people even give those people a little $10 gift card for the opportunity to place a sign in their yard as you're directing people into your open house. But having plenty of time to get your sign set out, to get the home ready. As you get into the home, if your sellers haven't turned on all the lights for you, you're going to want to make sure that all of the lights are on, that the draperies are wide open. You want to have an atmosphere that's as light and bright as possible. You may notice a few things that need a little extra, zhuzh, a little extra cleaning. So you may want to have a little supply of cleaning supplies in your car just in case. You're going to set out your table, your marketing table. If you've got treats, you're going to get those set out as well. And just give yourself a little bit of time to relax before people start coming in. Sometimes people are lining up at the door, and sometimes it takes 20 minutes to a half hour before people start coming in. Depending on the property, you may have people knocking at the door, wanting to get in right away. And sometimes they will show up when they show up. So, of course, that's one of the first things that you want to do is give yourself time to prepare. As people start to show up, make sure that you have your sign-in sheet right there available as people walk in. Some people will be reluctant to sign it. Hopefully you have created a sign that you've placed on the front door that says seller requests that all attendees or seller requests all guests sign in prior to viewing the home for their safety and for yours. So make sure you have that sign out and then ask people to sign in. You can make it super light. Just say, if you wouldn't mind signing in, just the seller has asked for anyone that comes to their home to sign the sign-in sheet. And so then once people are in, you want them to feel relaxed as well. Give them time to look through the home. You're going to give them some information about the property. If you've got flyers that you want to give to them, you certainly can give it to them. Give them sort of a high-level overview of the home, the details of the home, meaning how many beds, baths, the price. Ask people open-ended questions. So what brings you in today? Have you been to many open houses today? Ask them a lot of open-ended questions so that you start developing rapport right from the time they walk in the door. There's a method to developing rapport, and it is based on the acronym of the letters F, O, R, and D. So if you can remember the word Ford, you're going to remember the following for the 4 letters. So F is for family. So you can ask them about their family. If they come in with their kids, you can ask the name of the kids. O stands for occupation. So what do you do? And have some conversation around what they do for a living. R stands for recreation. So what kinds of things do you like to do? Is it important to you that there's a park close by? Are you looking to be close to theater? What is it that you like to do, for fun? And then dreams. So something to the effect of, if you could have your dream home, what does that look like for you and for your family? So as you're trying to think of questions that will develop rapport with the people that come in, it's a great idea to think of that acronym FORD. You're certainly not going to follow people through the home. However, if you end up going with them throughout the home, make sure that you keep yourself behind them. So in other words, let the people go in front of you. This is just sort of it's a courtesy thing, and it's a safety thing, because if you had an issue, a safety issue, you want to be able to have a clear escape route if something were to go wrong. And so you'll let people go in front of you and you can direct them from behind. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let people walk through, typically if they would like to just lead themselves on a tour. When they're all done, ask open-ended questions again. So what did you think of the home? Does this fit what the kind of home that you're looking for? Are you working with an agent? Keep in mind, as you start to develop rapport and people start to open up, people will start telling you things that are substantive issues, meaning price, terms, and motivation. And that's when you end up bringing out the agency relationships in real estate forms. So at that point, you can say, has anyone talked with you about the different types of agency relationships in the state of Minnesota? And they'll say, most likely say no. And that gives you the opportunity to walk through the different type of agency relationships with them. You'll find that a lot of agents do not do this. However, we have heard of the Department of Commerce, most likely when they were more fully staffed, coming through and checking on agents to see if we are explaining agency to people who start giving substantive information to us in open houses. So do your very, very, very best to bring the agency conversation into play as people start to give you more information about their personal situation. As part of that conversation, it's really good for you to know your scripts. And of course, we've included a few scripts here for you in this lesson. Knowing what to say when people say certain things makes you feel more confident and competent as you're having those conversations. So rely on your scripts. Keep in mind that when you ask the question, are you working with a real estate agent? Most likely the answer from the guests is going to be yes, whether or not they truly are. So as you start to develop more rapport, you may find that they may open up and say, well, no, we actually aren't working with another agent. So don't necessarily take their answer verbatim. Just continue to ask questions, not in a creepy way, of course, but ask questions more about their situation, and of course respect that. Maybe they'll tell you the name of their agent. You could say, oh, so who are you working with? I know a lot of people in the industry, if you really want to press the issue. Also want to mention, keep in mind that the people coming through your open not only are buyers, but they very well may be neighbors. We call them nosy neighbors, but we love it. If people are coming through the home and they happen to be a neighbor, keep in mind they're either nosy and they just want to know what the home looks like, or they might be thinking about selling and they want to basically do kind of a mock interview with you. So you don't know whether people are coming to look at the property or if they're coming to interview you for potentially listing their home. So it's really important, as we talked about in Prepare, to know the neighborhood, to know what is currently for sale, know some of the statistics about that particular neighborhood and city, because it's not only buyers, but it could very well be sellers looking for an agent. When we think about scripts, we oftentimes think about scripts as overcoming objections. However, scripts can also be something that we call your unique value proposition, or your UVP. So, if someone is coming in and they're talking to you and you're starting to have a great conversation about how you might help them as a buyer's agent, they may ask the question, so what makes you different than every other realtor out there in the state of Minnesota? And so having your UVP, or your unique value proposition, readily available in your mind, most likely you'll bullet point it in your mind so that you can explain to them the additional value and the unique value that you bring in helping to represent both buyers and sellers in the home transaction process is a really good thing. Be sure to take notes after each person comes through your open house and as they exit. I can guarantee you, if you have more than 3 or 4 people come through, you're going to forget what number 1 was all about. And so taking these notes is going to be beneficial for you. If you've got people to follow up with, it's going to be beneficial for the listing agent if you're hosting someone else's open, and also for the seller. And so you're going to want to work out with the listing agent, if it's not your own listing, how do you want me to communicate, the activity in the open house? Do you want me to leave a note for the seller? Do you want me just to call you and you can communicate that to the seller? But work that out ahead of time with the listing agent as to how to give feedback on the activity during the open. Be sure to have your laptop there. Someone may say, well, I'm not interested in this home, but I saw a home down the street that I'd be interested in seeing. So you want to be able to pull up that property. Of course, you can do it on your phone as well, but be able to say, well, hey, as soon as I'm done with this open, I can show you that house down the street. I'll schedule a showing for you right now. So having your laptop available and or your phone will be a really great and efficient way to schedule a showing for someone who has interest in a property other than the one that you're hosting open. So we've talked a little bit about what you're doing during the open house. I also want to take just a few minutes to talk about safety. Your safety is a very important consideration when you're hosting opens. It's rare that we have an issue where a realtor runs into trouble at an open house, but it has happened, and the last thing that we want is for something to happen to you. So let's talk about different things that you can have in your mind and things that you can think about to keep yourself safe during an open house. Number one, when you arrive at the home, do not park in the driveway, park on the street. If you have to make a quick escape, parking in the street will give you a really easy way to drive away from that situation. Keep your keys and your cell phone in your pocket as you are chatting with people who come through the open for obvious reasons. We've got some really good tips from the National Association of Realtors, or NAR. So NAR says, keep your cell phone fully charged so that if you had to use it in an emergency, you would be able to do so. Get familiar with the neighborhood, even go ahead and meet some of the neighbors and just say, hey, I'm going to be hosting this open. I'm not concerned about safety, but if you wouldn't mind just keeping a quick eye out as to kind of what's going on next door, I'd really appreciate it. As you start to approach the end of the open house, you're going to want to make sure that everyone is out of the home before you lock it all up. And then for the safety of the home itself, make sure that all the windows are as you found them. Make sure that all the locks are as you found them. Pay attention to all the instructions that were given in terms of securing that property before you leave. Be sure to tell someone where you're going to be, what time the open house is, and then maybe establish a check-in schedule just to ensure that everything is going the way it's supposed to be going. There are actual self-defense classes. Oftentimes they're offered by your brokerage or by your association, so having some training in self-defense is not a bad idea. Carrying photo ID in the event of an emergency is a really good idea. There is an app called Guard Llama that you can press, which will immediately contact the police in the event that you needed police assistance. So none of these things are meant to scare you. It's just good to have this awareness and to have a plan in place for the rare event or the rare occasion where something goes wrong at an open house. So that wraps up the present piece of our open house lessons. In our next lesson, we'll talk about pursue. Pursue is really about the follow-up because the fortune is in the follow-up. So we'll see you in the next video.